straight. No, contact.
Hold the line.
5, 2, 3, 9. Yep, they're taking fire. And we are back. It is a new year, a new development cycle, a new time for Foxhole and for No Man's Land, because there's going to be some shit that we're going to have to be talking about. But of course, let's get to the introduction. I'm joined here with yours truly, Razor. Say something.
Hey guys, welcome to the
Anyways.
new Kira.
And then we have Avagis as well.
Praise Callahan, comrade.
Ah, beautiful. We got a nice little podcast today to start off the year. We do apologize. It took a little while, but hey, you know what? Can't rush these things. We have lives, and but let's get into the nitty gritty.
Do we?
Oh,
News
no.
to me.
Callahan only asks for your service and your time, so all an offer to give. DevBlog 58.
Oh boy.
It's quite interesting. A lot more water based.
Yeah.
And a lot more salt.
Can't stop the salt, but hey, let's get into the. Do you want to talk about the server performance enhancement? Server enhancement enlarger?
Oh god.
We know Foxhole's having a problem keeping it up, so hopefully they can take the next
Don't get. I mean, anybody that's passionate about Foxhole can only be pleased with the increase in the player base. Like anybody that likes Foxhole wants to see it do well, obviously, yeah. As a veteran, though, when you've been playing the game for as long as we have, with next to no performance issues. Well, I've never had really any performance issues. I don't know about anybody else.
Speaking for yourself.
Yeah, well, we to go from that to what it is now is just ridiculous. Like now, it's just like it's almost laughable how laggy things are. It's to a certain extent, it's making the game unplayable for a lot of people. Now I know that like I have never had performance issues, but I know a lot of people have, and the lag is making those performance issues, it compounds them, makes them even worse. So it's actually getting to the stage now where people might buy the game and they might even not play it again or just refund it, because like certain people, the game is like literally unplayable, and it's because of it's a point that I've raised before, and it's not just the lag. I mean, we've had operations this war and last war that have been completely annihilated, not by colonials but by border crossing. We've lost battle tanks, we've lost CVs, trucks, barges, everything that you can think of has sunk to the bottom of the ocean or been lost on border travel. And that's just, I mean, it's devastating to people that have spent literal hours of their lives preparing for these things just to have it deleted before their very eyes because the game can't handle the amount of people that are on it, basically. Just to reiterate, I am very, very happy that the game is doing well. However, a point that I've raised before, the game, it needs more than 140 people on every map. It needs way more than that. It needs to be, in my opinion, at least 300, at least. I mean,
Baby steps.
I mean, I know that it's Foxhole's. It's not a big game. It's not a AAA title or anything like that. And I know the devs do the best with what they have. But I think upgrading the servers is going to be a huge thing. It's a necessity more than anything if they want to keep the game going the way it's going. But in the end, what I would like to see at full release is 300 people on every map.
That would
because
be the dream.
that's the dream. That's the dream. I'm not sure if it'll ever come true, but you know that's what I think Foxhole needs in order to of what they want it to be.
You
Really.
hear that, Clapfoot? You only got one thing to do in 2019 is to at least get 300 people. Can we at least get that happen?
Wait. What do you mean one thing? What about my bugs? What about my bugs?
Look, dude, we all know how the bug cycle goes. They make some new ones, they patch some ones, they ignore the ones that everyone wants them to deal with, but it's going to be an endless cycle. It's getting close to a Bethesda level.
I don't know. I'm still hoping. Cause like I know they're in they were in this dev stream. They are in the yearly plan, so I'm expecting some of them to go away. Just to make clear for everyone, like I'm not complaining about the smaller ones. Those are to be expected. But like Avatar said before me, uh, the game breaking is what I call game breaking when you know when you lose stuff when you cross a border, when you are not able to jump in your vehicle. That keeps coming up again. Like you cannot use your E key anymore. You cannot get in, get out, do anything. Those are game breaking bugs, and I think like if you want my personal opinion, game breaking bugs for a game should be priority number one. Not anything else. Not vehicles, not server capacity, not anything else. Like whatever is you know creating such a big problem inside the game that people and I literally witnessed people just saying fuck it, I'm done, you know, just fine.
Yeah.
I'm
yeah.
closing it right
And
now.
that is a shame, isn't it?
Yeah.
Shame. I always feel a little bad inside when I hear somebody give up on Foxhole completely because although I understand why they're doing it, I'm extremely passionate about the game and I want to see it do well. I just hope that the devs can get these issues sorted out sooner rather than later.
Anyway, let's go to something more positive because like we've been on the
Lately, we've been on a lot of the salt train, and we need to divert some of that out. There's a lot of kids that could use that.
Yeah.
Let's go to their essentially what they plan to have all skirmishes connected to the main region, and weren't I thought they were already. I thought you could already drive the
Oarbreaker
Oarbreaker.
Oarbreaker is, but the other maps have never been connected, and I'm not sure how it's going to work to tell you the truth because obviously Reach and Trail is behind our port bases, and the other one I can't remember its name is south of the Colonial port bases. So I'm not really sure what's going to be happening there, but I think they could make it work. I mean, I'm not quite sure the point of including Tempest Island. Like,
training map.
yeah, pretty much, isn't it? I mean, you can. I mean, competitive clan map, or I don't know, a training map, as you said, or you know, there's not much in there at all, and to connect it to World Conquest seems a bit pointless to me. It seems like somewhere where you should go when you are, you know, playing from no ranked to maybe private first class or something like that.
I
You know
mean,
what
yeah,
First couple of ranks of the game you should play on there to get the feel for it without getting
There
yelled at
are,
and
if
shot
you
at and stuff.
remember, there are some games that do have that level restriction where first you're low level, you're introduced to these small skirmishes, then later on, you're you know as you're like
Heroes
level
and
5.
Generals is a good example. Heroes and Generals is a good example because I don't know if whoever's played that, but I think from level 1 to 3 or something like that, it might have changed. I haven't played in a long time, but when I played it, I think it was like level 1 to 3, you could only join like small scale infantry skirmishes, and then as you increased in level, you could be including bigger games with tanks and airplanes and all that jazz. So I think introducing people gently is probably the best bet, considering that Foxhole doesn't really have that much in the way of a tutorial. I mean, it's got the starter island that tells you the basics. You know what I mean? The very, very basics, but doesn't really tell you how to act in game, because Foxhole isn't like other games in the respect that like people will just not stand for bullshit. Not if it is directly being negative to the team. So for instance, if you're building a bunker wall in front of a really important bridge route, you know, people aren't going to stand for that. You know what I mean? They're going to destroy your work. They're going to kill you probably for being an idiot. So I think like introducing people gently to how the game works and to how to act within the game is a big thing, because I mean, I know they really want to advertise it as like anybody can play Foxhole sort of game, and you know, family friendly, all that crap, because at the end of the day, if they do that, then they obviously their sales are going to increase. But I think when it comes down to it, the reality of the situation, most people who play Foxhole are playing it to what's the word? They want to play it semi-seriously. Like they don't want to, like, yeah, you do get people that fuck around and stuff like that and have fun and all that jazz. Yeah, obviously. But like when you come to the Steam menu and you know you're clicking on that, you know, buy button, you're not thinking to yourself, oh, I'm going to go into this game and fuck around. You're thinking to yourself, right, this game looks like, I don't know, Company Heroes or something like that. You know what I mean? Like a game that you can relate to and that you've enjoyed in the past, and it looks like that, and it sounds as if it plays like that. So why not get it, sort of thing? You're not thinking to yourself at that time, I'm going to get the game and fuck around. You know what I mean? So I think if that feeling and bring it forward into the game and give new people a way of slowly being introduced to how things are run in game and things like that. Introduce them to logic and how to request things, and you know what certain items are and what's valuable, what isn't. For instance, you know, the first spawn, you don't want to be taking a satchel charging a pillbox, for instance. You know what I mean? Because that's like a very expensive resource for something that you're just going to die doing. You know, they need to learn before.
If you want my take on it, I think like Tempest Island would serve like I don't know if you guys actually tried Life is Feudal in the end. Just long story short, they have an island that is very small compared to
I
the
tried it. I
to
tried it.
the entire like map of the game, right? And like you start on that island, and you can basically like start doing the small stuff, get used to the mechanics and stuff like that there on that small island, and then once you're accustomed, you can just like at whatever point you decide, you can go back, you can go into the main world, right? And then that's it, boom, like I would see Tempest Island like that in the game, if you know what I mean. It's like just a starter island where you can basically do most of the stuff you can do in game, not all of it, of course. And once you get accustomed with it, you can just like go to a conscription office or something on the island, you know what I mean, and just like sign up for the war. You get asked like what faction you want. You understand what I'm saying? Maybe you can even make it a bit of creative with it. Get creative with it, and basically like have that island present you the game, and then it comes to your decision on which side you want to be. You can have some lure there. You know what I mean?
Absolutely, absolutely. And like I think that's what they're missing at the moment. They really need to characterize the two sides, because at the moment, I mean, yeah, we have our role play and stuff like that, but I mean, we don't really know a great deal lore-wise about the sides, and I think the way that the game's going and the community and things like that, I think we badly need some more lore. And like I've said in the past, if the devs did sort of like, I don't know, a weekly competition or something like that, and every week they had a new section of lore to write about, like for instance, I don't know, the creation of mortar. I don't know, the mortar tube or something like that. You know, like who made it, who invented it. You know, where was it first used? You know, blah blah blah. Who invented the rifle? Blah blah blah. You know what I mean? Like, it just little things that people can reference in stories and things like that. You know what I mean? I think that would go a long way, because a lot of people want to write stories, but they're forced to make up their own sort of
Names and
names and all that type of stuff. And I think if they had a set number of names, it would bring character to the sides. I mean, they don't need to necessarily give us a massive flushed out lore of the two sides, but they could. I think they need to do a little bit more than adding like little scraps of paper everywhere with just like random stories about a cadet or something that lost his way, you know, all that type of shit. Like, we need context. We need like
that's where I stand, and I stand by this a lot, where if you add little bits of notes around your game, it doesn't mean you have compelling lore. It just means like it's like not well thought out. If I play a game and I do not know, not tell me what faction is, what they do, what, or like if I like, you could tell me like the only thing I know about the Wardens is that they're blue and they have a leader called Callahan, and they're being invaded. That's
pretty much
okay. Even the invaded part, like you would have to.
I mean, that's it with a grain of salt, isn't it? I mean, like,
that's all you know.
What's the context for the invasion? You know what I mean? Did the Wardens exploit the Colonials in some way? You know what happened? I mean, because at the moment, the only thing that we have to go on is that the Colonials are invading, and the Wardens have lived here for a very, very, very long time, and they don't want anybody else here. I mean, that's like
the first war either, and it's like, because we're playing on like destroyed, like everything around is destroyed. Reference to a war prior, and yet we know absolutely fucking nothing about it. It's like, okay, well, fuck, if we can't know anything about what's happening currently, can we at least know what happened at the fucking past? I mean, is there no such thing as history?
Yeah, I mean, I'd really like to see them just, I don't know, give a full story of Callahan, for instance, and reference other people, other names and things like that throughout, and like who currently runs the Wardens, because Callahan's been dead. Callahan is sort of like Napoleon for the French, you know, he's a hero of the past sort of thing, but like the Wardens right now, I have no idea who runs the Wardens right now. I like to think it's sort of like, you know how the Roman Empire called all of their leaders Caesar, yeah?
So every new leader is the new Callahan. That's like
basically, yes. That's how I would like to think of it. So Callahan's more of a title now than a name. But I know that the Colonials are led by a woman called Thea Marrow or something like that. But again, I don't really know a great deal about her.
Women.
Woman.
That is a name.
Well,
the word I have not heard in centuries.
The devs are Canadian, so they've got a diversity quota on me, haven't they? So.
I guess. I mean, they're not doing like Battlefield 5 status where they.
Well, at least not. At least it's not that status.
It's sometimes it's hard to just ask for just a greedy, like actual World War II like game that has no political bullshit. I'm not saying that it is, but
no, I don't.
In all things, but this, I mean, I might sound like an asshole.
It's a real stretch to draw anything political from Foxhole, and I don't really want to get into it because it's fucking everything now. But I really don't think that's the case with Foxhole. I mean, they put female characters in. That's fine. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, it's not World War II. It's another. That's the beauty of Foxhole. That is the real beauty of Foxhole, because even though it's themed on World War II, it's not World War II. It's a completely different planet. You know what I mean? With a completely different history, and I think that's what we're missing. You know what I mean? If we knew the history,
but that's the thing is, we don't know. And
Exactly.
it's like just tell it to us out straight. Make a whole fucking essay. Let us fucking read, or let someone that you know fucking write it down. The only thing I can gather from this, from what I guess now I know that I guess the colonials are led by women, so that means that they're lesser than, you know.
Oh God.
I was about to say because I always knew, I always had a feeling that that we were superior in some way.
They don't like jokes in Canada. They don't like jokes in Canada,
Oh,
Dark. So
sorry.
you might
This
want
is
to
probably
you might
gonna
want to
get-
reel it back a little
The
bit.
the
Because
threshold.
fucking
I
dragged through the
stand
court.
for it. My girlfriend's not here, so I can be as fucked up as I can be.
Next dev stream. Lol. Next No Man's Land, we're gonna have her behind you so you can repent for this. For this speech. She's gonna have you read the full apology and all that. Just
Yes, yeah, and then along with the reprimands from YouTube and everyone that and their mothers gets offended by that little. But anyway, I think we strayed far enough. Let's roll back
We
in
have
and
strayed.
let's talk about the redesign of Meme Breaker.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I love it. Like the redesign, it's something that's needed to happen for quite a long time, in my opinion. Because at the end of the day, fighting on Oarbreaker, you're fighting over an archipelago of islands, yeah. But what happened with the previous iteration of Oarbreaker? They had the two port bases connected by quote unquote like a large chunk of land. Excuse me. That was about the same size as the Iris from you know, the what's the other skirmish map called? The single town one.
Tempest.
Tempest. So it's about the island was about the size as Tempest. So you're playing on basically a small skirmish map, and then you just happen to have another bunch of islands that nobody really fought over. You know what I mean? You get maybe a couple of engineers going over to an island and hitching some foxholes and taking it out and then rebuilding it, and then the colonial engineers would come over and do the same thing, and that's pretty much how it goes. You know, there'd be the odd skirmish here and there, but nothing really substantial. Because the main reason for that was like a game starts, so a war starts, and you spawn an Oarbreaker. The only option that you have for getting to any other island is a barge. Okay, so you build a barge. You can only get 6 people on it now. You know, and then it's a really slow-moving vehicle, a lot of fuel consumption, all that type of shit. So it results in a lot of, like, say for instance, I'll give you a scenario: 3 people. Two people log onto the game, the buddy's an hour late, okay? So they build a barge, they go out, they build, they take a CV with them, build a town hall, blah, blah, blah. They build defenses around an island. Their buddy comes on an hour later, okay? He then has to build another barge to go and meet them, and he parks it next to their barge, and then they have fun all night, building whatever they're doing, fighting a couple of colonials that come to the island, and then they log off. What happens to those barges? They stay on that beach for the rest of the war. And how many times do you think that happens, like, throughout the entire war? A lot. So by the end of the war, you have literally Oarbreaker. Every single beach is just rammed full of barges. And it's to the point where it is, I don't want to say unplayable, because it's not unplayable. It's just really frustrating. And it's like, we're not getting, we're getting 70 people per side on servers, but how much of that, like, I don't know, processing power is taken up by the sheer amount of barges everywhere? I think, like, certain vehicles should have decay, barges especially. If anything, the only vehicle in the game that should have decay is barges, because it would solve so much shit. It's unreal for Oarbreaker. But that aside, I think they have solved it, or at least part of the way, with the introduction of the new vehicle, which is the little wooden boat with a motorized engine can sit 3 people, 2 with a secondary and 1 driving, much like a motorbike. So 3 of these things can potentially drop off 9 infantry. You know what I mean? And they're supposed to be very cheap, but the main thing, they require no dock to build. All they need is for somebody to be near low water or a shoreline or something like that. So if you're stranded out in the middle of nowhere and you've got, I don't know how many B-mans going to be, I would estimate about 35 or something like that. You know, build yourself a little boat and you can travel a map in it. So I think that's going to go a long way to helping the barge problem. I don't
And
think they're
also,
going to.
in the same breath, like I understand completely that this was made for good intentions, but let's reel it back, and we all know what it's gonna be. It's gonna be exploited, just about almost anything and everything that's ever available in Foxhole, and this just gives, like, for example, just to pitch like mortar, like right now, mortar, like small mortar crews are kind of becoming a little bit of a menace at certain and mostly throughout, once they're unlocked stages of the game. It's always like complicated where it's like, oh, how did this get destroyed? Oh, it was a small mortar team just sneaked through and managed to destroy it. Like, fuck. Now this is just going to give them and partisans in general a lot more movement around, and it's like it gets in that, like, it just kind of gives me a little scared, like that's why I'm kind of clenched when I read and saw this, and it's like yeah, it's cool, but maybe it's because I don't really fuck around with water. I like to be on the ground.
Yeah. I mean, it's. Go ahead, Ray.
No, I was just thinking about the mortar issue because that's a good example, and keeping in the. I'll just be short on it. I think the biggest problem with that, Dark, is, in real life you'll never send 2 people with a mortar in the middle of the fuck knows where to fucking try and destroy something, because it's a support weapon. It's not meant to, you
I was
know.
about to say, like, let's not bring real life in Foxhole, because we all
Oh,
know.
okay, fine. No. Yeah, I know, but just a bit. I think it is relevant because you
Well,
should
yeah,
like
the mortars are supposed to be
the
used effectively to disrupt enemy communication / also deny area. But in here, it's more of a it's a
direct fire weapon.
mid-tier
Yeah.
sieging. Yeah, it's like if you use it on infantry, most of the time people will be like, "What the fuck are you doing?" You know,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
like, shoot the fucking gun nest. Like, what are you doing? Why are you killing people?
So
I
basic.
think.
Yeah.
So
No, I was just
the
go ahead.
gone.
Just
Come on,
inviting each
Jade,
other.
let's go.
Fuck's sake. I'd say the main tool for taking out things like gun nests and AT turrets is the mortar. I mean, it's used from its invention to the end of the war. It's consistently used. You know what I mean? So it's always going to be a weapon for taking out buildings. I can understand your apprehension at more partisans being in backline maps and stuff like that, and I fully agree with you. However, it's not the teams of partisans that are coming through. So if 6 partisans land on a beach in Mooring, and they get off and they destroy a few trucks, and then they're intercepted and killed, blah blah blah, whatever. Although that is really annoying, we have to remember that our guys can do that as well. You know what I mean? So it's going to be happening both ways, as with anything on Foxhole. But what concerns me more than anything else is, and what I've seen repeatedly, especially in these last couple of wars, is you're getting high-ranked colonial colonels and majors and shit like that, and they're going on their own with a jeep, and they're getting on your back line, and they'll get on the crossing between Faranac and Mooring, for instance. I don't know. And when you were so say you send a team to deal with this partisan that's been destroying your trucks, you'll get to him and he'll border hop. So he'll leave the map because there's no colonials in Mooring County, so he can easily border hop to Mooring. So he border hops to Mooring. You follow him. By the time that you've loaded up, he's already set up his HMG and destroys your truck with all of your guys in it or whatever. You know what I mean? And that type of shit needs to be stopped badly. Like, it's so... like, I hesitate at using the term like rat play, and for people that don't understand what that means, it's sort of like using underhanded tactics in order to gain an advantage, or using the game's
Like exploiting, you know.
well, yeah, that's what it is. Yeah,
in a dose it is, because like
It's
because
like-
of the travel you cannot do anything, you cannot like load faster or some shit like that to catch up, so
and it's with shit like that, like you said, like the tools to do it are available for both sides, yeah, but not saying we hold ourselves in a higher standard, but we're not, I don't find fun in using fucking exploits. That shit, like, I personally, I feel fucking like,
I feel dirty doing it.
yeah, it's like I feel lesser. It's like that's not something for me. I'm better than that. I can play without needing exploits. But then when you have that hardcore veteran, the guy that's been playing ever since, like, you know, the game ever came out for free, he's still using these exploits, and it's like come on, dude, like you can't play any other fucking way. You got to be this much of a scumbag to fucking do this.
They're always high ranked and they're always clanless. You know what I mean?
Of course,
And it makes
that's,
you wonder.
that's the way, and it's like, I mean, props to them for playing solo, but in the end, fuck them for, you know, exploiting the shit out of that.
And
Well-
I feel as if that's going to get a lot more prominent with these boats. And I know that they can only be built on skirmish maps at the moment. I think they can only be built on Oarbreaker. That's the only map that really makes sense for them.
Brever, sorry, there's the other one as well. Name is eluding me right now.
I can't remember it either.
Fisherman's Row.
Fisherman's Row.
Yeah,
That's also
yeah.
Handsome Hideaway for some reason.
Yeah, Fisherman's Row. I think all three of the ones, Tempest Island as well, because it has some beach in some areas. But the two relevant ones are Fisherman's Row and Oarbreaker. Those are the two relevant ones.
I think what you're going to be seeing in the next whenever this update drops, is you're going to be seeing that Oarbreaker is a lot more active than it once was. Not just because it's easier to get between the islands, but it's one of the only places where you can build these little boats. And Oarbreaker is going to have access to Faranac and Westgate. So it's like you can deploy these little boats from Oarbreaker very, very easily to the colonial home regions and to our home regions as well. So you can get on Partisan Island there to the west of the map, I think. Yeah, it's to the west of the map there, with its shoreline facing west. You can easily get a fob going on there with plenty of shirts in it, you know, supplies, Partisan supplies in that fob. Build your little landing craft on the beach there, and then just go straight across. It's not a big deal at all. What I think might be a good plan for that is to make it so that these little boats can't border cross. I think that would go a long way to helping the keeping them out of the war and all that jazz.
Yeah, they should have a low autonomy. They shouldn't be able to cross vast amounts of water. Being a motorboat, we'll see. Maybe they will. If it comes to be an issue, maybe they will consider it. Hopefully, it's not an issue at all. But I doubt that people are just like, as you said, with anything that is added new to the game, everybody's gonna want one as fast as possible, so they can just like use it and test it and see how it is and see where they can go with it and where they cannot. So in the beginning, there's gonna be a lot of trial and error from the community, I guess.
Couldn't be fun blowing them out of the water with a gunboat though. I have to.
Oh, absolutely. It's gonna be fun to blow up with anything because the DevBlog is pretty clear about them having zero survivability. So they're gonna be very easy to be hunted by anything that can fire at them. So
Yeah, they're strictly transport, aren't they? They're like
yeah,
literally nothing else. Can't throw grenades from them, anything like that. What they can be used for is a very, very good coastal scout. So you
yes,
can use your secondaries. So you can use binos. You can have a radio backpack on, blah blah blah, whatever. But as a coastal scout, you know, it's going to be second to none because it's not a slow-moving gunboat. It's not as visible and as loud as an APC. Well, I don't know about loud.
loud, yeah, because as a
It
motor
might
might
be.
be.
It might be loud. I don't know.
Yeah, but still, like, I just imagine in my head right now, like, speedboating with it on the coast while you have a spotter just, like, gathering intel on the fly, not even stopping, you know what I mean? Just, like,
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah.
It's going to be good. It's going to be good.
If they are fast enough, they might be even able to, like, avoid most detection, because, like, like, water has not as much radio coverage as land, so...
Yeah, I mean, if you're clever enough about it, you can avoid radio. Like, I'm always conscious of radio coverage when I'm manning any vehicle, because it's not like people think it's the RPG that kills you. It isn't the RPG that kills you. It's the radio tower that kills you. Because what a lot of people forget about Foxhole is the brilliance of the game is it's not just the combat. It's like things that are set into motion, like have knock-on effects. You know what I mean? So like, if you are, for instance, if you send one, like as for instance, I was leading a tank column out the other day, 3 tanks, and we knew that there was a colonial tank down by a town attacking in, I don't know, one of the skirmish maps. And we knew he was down there. We knew he was working on defences. But there was a colonial radio tower between us and him. So what I did was I sent one of my guys out with the tanks with a rifle. We destroyed the radio tower. Then we went down and we ambushed the tank, destroyed it easily straight away. If we went across that radio tower without destroying it, we might have got to the town before he noticed that we were coming. But he could have easily been looking at the radio at that very instant, seen the 3 tanks coming down to kill him, and pulled back instantly. And then from him pulling back, he then goes to another front and decimates that front, does more damage. It's like radio towers are always the beginning of the end for vehicles. So battle tanks getting spotted on radios and stuff like that. Every single light tank with AP loaded on the map is like, ooh, you know what I mean? They can see it on the radio. They know exactly where it is. They start heading straight for it. And then you can have, if you're clever with radio coverage as well, you can very, very easily plan flanks and stuff like that. I mean, that is the prerequisite for most of my tactics, is like having good radio coverage. If you have good radio coverage, you can just absolutely dominate if you're clever with it.
Very true, very true. Like, we all know the big radio towers and how important they are on the maps. You can find them. It's critical to control them.
Especially on naval maps.
Oh,
Naval
absolutely.
maps, absolutely.
Speaking about naval maps, I would like to come back to Oarbreaker for a second, because like we didn't really discuss the map too much. The first observation I want to make, and it's probably the first thing everybody noticed, is the port bases are finally separate from each other. They are at opposite sides of the map. They have their own islands.
It's a proper archipelago now. It's a
Exactly.
proper archipelago.
Yeah.
It's not just a tiny skirmish map with some islands off the coast. You know what I mean?
'Cause,
Like it's actually going to be a case of fighting over these different islands individually, rather than rather than huge pushes on the main island, which is what
Yeah.
Oarbreaker often developed into. So what I think you're going to start seeing on these little islands, I think you're going to start seeing a hell of a lot more skirmishes between two sides. I think like the it's going to develop a lot more into squad-based gameplay rather than huge zergs from either side at each other with a no man's land in the middle. I think it's going to be a lot more focused on maneuverability and movement and all that type of shit.
I mean, I was thinking right now about like what did I do when I played on that map, and I have to tell you, with the exception of a few ops in which I think you were there as well, and we, did like some APCs, went through the islands, took some town halls, mostly uncontested if I remember correctly. Other than that, like every other interaction was only on that main island. Like
Yeah,
we needed the town hall. Okay, let's go on the main island, get the town hall real quick. Blah blah blah. That's it. Boom. Never like found a reason to leave the fucking thing. You know what I mean?
I remember leading an op on Oarbreaker one time because the only reason I put the op on Oarbreaker was because I literally hadn't played it in weeks and weeks and weeks. So I decided to run an op on it. I thought, right, we'll get some different type of gameplay. We'll get some people with experience on water and all that type of shit. And at the time, we didn't have gunboats unlocked. It was medium in the war. And I have to say, the entire op was kind of a waste because we went to an island. We destroyed some defenses. We took the island and we built defenses, and we moved on to the next island and fought some foxholes and built that town. There was no I think in the entire op, I think we killed 3 colonials. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
and those were just like random lone players that were just in the wrong place at the wrong time. Really, there was no concerted effort. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean, and hopefully this is gonna fix that. Otherwise, we're gonna have to see like what facilities are gonna be where, and then we're gonna probably comment it again, because that's a big part of a map, in my opinion. You look at it like this when you don't see where everything is, and it's like, I like it. It's nice, but like everybody wants to see like where facilities,
Yeah. I
supplies.
think we need to talk about it again
Yeah.
when we can see exactly where everything is. Because what a lot of people forget about Oarbreaker is that, I mean, theoretically, it is the most important map in Foxhole because it's the only map in Foxhole that has 4 victory towns instead of 3. You know what I mean? So it's like, if you own Oarbreaker, then you're a long way to making sure. If you push right back into your port bases, a lot of people forego the skirmish maps. But I can tell you something now. The only reason the Wardens lost War 19 was because they didn't have good hold on the skirmish maps. We had the Colonials push back into their port bases for about a week, and during that time, we had next to no control over the skirmish maps, which meant that we were always a few towns short of our goal. You know what I mean?
It like I would say yes, that's true, but that itself was not the sole factor why the Wardens
I
lost.
know. There's other reasons that we need to talk about as well.
Yeah,
And
no,
like,
the
maybe
the
it was
main
the wrong word to say
yeah,
only, but it was a large contributing factor as
an
well.
issue. The
Because
biggest issue, just like going over it, is always the upgrade parts, and we can discuss it after we finish with the DevBlog. But upgrade parts are the problem. Getting all the town halls to level 3 is a tremendous task with the tech tree not finished.
Yeah,
If
well,
you
I
ask me.
think what we have to talk about now might help with that, which
Yeah,
is the changes to the mines.
in
yeah,
skirmish maps, I believe, in the islands, they're gonna be changed to upgrade part mines, which is by far probably the most important thing that could ever happen. Yeah,
yeah.
I do like that.
The
It's a great.
skirmishes, yeah, just like instantly transforming to this, like, if you want my personal opinion, they're like, with the addition of this change as well, they are now more important than the mainland, way more important, only because of these mines, if you know what I mean. Because like, think
There's
about it.
no point of fighting in the mainland at all, because I mean that's like right now when the war starts, there is no reason to push until your technology is high enough, so that way you're not going to be spending money on it. Like there is no early game. Like they could say whatever you want, but there are no wars that will ever be won currently in this you know how things are set. You cannot win a war early or mid game. You could only win it late game.
And it's like,
Everything benefits that, because if you're stupid enough to spend upgrade parts or your tech parts into upgrade parts to upgrade the town halls, well, good luck getting the fucking armats to build them, because I mean early game you can't even build armats until you can get fucking sledges.
yeah, and like even let's say like you go the full stretch, you get sledges, you commit to town halls, the amount of equipment your enemy is gonna gain over you will be like just like game breaking. You would not have access to what you would need to stop what the enemy can throw at you. You could end, your war right there without without even like, sure, the enemy is not gonna win in short term, but you doom yourself for the late game, which is in this meta the only thing that counts. So these mines are gonna be easily more important than anything else in the game, because they're gonna allow you one important thing. They're gonna allow you to focus all your scrappable tech to the tech tree, and if you control said mines, you could use these mines for the upgrade parts you need for anything that needs upgrade parts, from safe houses to town halls to basically anything. I know you need a level 2 fob, you need a production facility. You just use the mines. No reason to like waste the hard worked tech parts you got from scrapping, right? So I think that it's basically it's an encouragement to move out of the mainland. I guess it sounds a bit weird, man, right?
Yeah, I agree. It's it's going to be something that's going to be interesting, because I think, like I said, like Oarbreaker is definitely, with everything that's just been said as well, like it's going to be like the main map, in my opinion. It's going to be heavily fought over in this next hit. The only thing that could make it even more like fought over would be a rocket site there.
Who knows until we get to see the like what the facilities are and where the supplies are. Everything is possible. So that might actually be 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 reality soon, Avitus. We'll have to wait and see. But yeah, I think there's not much to say about the mines aside from what we already discussed. They're gonna be a game changer for sure. Um, the sad part is they are still not good enough to facilitate a fast win. And I know and I understand the developers went on and on about them wanting it to be as persistent and wanting the wars being longer and stuff like that. But I think I already went through here like the importance of having multiple win conditions and like the importance of allowing a team to dominate. I'm not saying don't give the enemy a chance to come back, but look at our meta. Like it's more comebacks than normal wins right now. Like people win through a comeback most every
Like,
war.
what tends to be happening now is that like we're doing to the Colonials right now what they did to us last war. Basically, what happened last war, we pushed them back into practically into their port bases on the main map, yeah, and we had them pushed back in practically to their port bases for near a week, yeah. So in that time, we they somehow managed to out-tech us, like even though logically, yeah, if you own more scrap fields than the other faction, surely that you should be getting more tech than the other faction, yeah? because you have not more places to draw the resources from. So logically, that is what should be happening, and that wasn't what happened at all. They got tanks, I think, a full 24 hours before us. So they, as soon as they got tanks, and like we had practically, we obviously had RPGs. We did have things to face them, and we did slow them down, and we faced them for quite a long time across the maps. But eventually, when they did break through, I mean, we are going to talk about it. I think everybody has to talk about it. But Jade Cove, I think what a lot of people don't talk about with Jade Cove is the fact that, like, once it was lost, what was behind Jade Cove to stop the Colonials? I mean, bearing in mind that we'd had them pushed back in their pore spaces for a week, how many defences were built in Mooring in that week? Next to none. You know what I mean? How many bit of defences were built in Faranac on the north side during that week? Next to none. You know what I mean? Deadlands, next to none. Endless Shore, next to none. So as soon as the Colonial tanks broke through, there was absolutely fuck all to stop them going north. And it's exactly the same thing that's happened this war with the Wardens. So as soon as we got tanks, we found a breach and we went through it, and we didn't stop moving because they just didn't have anything to face us. All of their defences have long decayed away. So, I mean, it can be helped with garrison supplies, but who can be asked getting in from work on a night, logging onto your computer, building these fucking garrison supplies and going around and checking if each and every single garrison has these supplies in it? Like, I can tell you now, next to nobody, because nobody does it, because that's why defenses are rotting away. You know what I mean?
And keep in mind, you need to do it basically daily, and you need to like try and calculate, approximate what a day of consumption would be, and then do that every day for each fob. I mean, come on, that's a part-time job, if not a full-time job.
Jade Cove was a part-time job. It was also an inside job as well.
Oh god,
like-
nice intro for it. Huh?
Sorry, what you guys were talking about earlier, I was fucking knocked out, and then I woke up when I heard the sirens of Jade Cove.
It's, I mean, I think what we should, like, it's easy to, everybody's bashed it by now, you know what I mean? Every single person on YouTube, on FOD, you know, there's been drama with us about it, you know what I mean? Like, everybody knows. We don't need to go over what everybody else knows. I think what is just best is to give our own personal feelings on it, you know what I mean? I mean, my personal feelings on what happened at Jade Cove. Yes, it was a mistake for WNS to do what they did. I feel for the Warden Navy having partially taken the blame for no reason, just with the pure fact that they share a name, basically. Well, they shared initials or whatever. But the whole fiasco that blew up around it, like, I can understand the meme, but I mean, I didn't really comment on it a great deal. It happened, and then I was like, well, you know, I knew the war was lost then. I think what a lot of people tend to do is that they forget that you've say that you have the Colonials pushed back into their port bases for a week. They then break out of their port bases and retake their home counties, and all of a sudden everyone's like, oh, the war's lost. You know what I mean? Like, and people can't seem to fathom the fact that you're still fighting in their home regions. You know what I mean? And you have been for some time. So, I mean, they've been doing it for a while, and I don't know. It needs to be something that's it's the attitude of the player base that needs to change for that to for wars to end up a different way, because it's the loss of morale that loses wars at the moment. You know what I mean? Like, say if the Colonials, like for instance, the Colonials had us push back into our home regions for a week or whatever it was, and then we suddenly managed to push out, and not only push out but break through and do a lot of damage and retake maps and all that type of shit, and they just seem to give up like straight away because they've lost progress. You know what I mean? And it's exactly the same thing for the Warden side. So I mean, although Jade Cove was a contributing factor to why the Wardens lost, I think it was more of it was something born of the entire Warden community, rather than a single clan. Yes, they did press the big red button, yes, but like, and I'm not trying to take away from the fact that they made a mistake, because they did. But at the end of the day, like, the reason they did what they did, in my opinion, was because the consensus among the Wardens was the war was already lost. Do you know what I mean? So they were just sort of like fighting a last-ditch effort sort of thing. But what what I couldn't get my head around was the fact that they were just like, they were saying it way prematurely. There was not a single colonial was in our home regions, and we'd already lost the war apparently. You know what I mean? It's just people don't want to do the jobs like going back to the home regions and rebuilding defences and things like that, preparing for the colonials coming across the border and stuff like that. What they would rather do is they would rather go to the front line with a rifle and shoot as many colonials as possible until they die, and then inevitably get pushed back with tanks. And then there's nothing. I mean, the main issue is there's nobody maintaining defences, there's nobody building defences, and thus every defence built when a town is taken is lost by rot, and it's going to be that way until they either make engineering more fun somehow, or change the garrison supply system. Because I mean, at the moment it's problematic, to say the least, and it's the main reason why we're seeing such huge swings in wars. That's why you're seeing such huge swings and comebacks and stuff like that, because they're not really coming back. All they're doing is like, they're just breaking through. You know what I mean? Like, they're breaking through into basically past the line that is being maintained, because the front line is maintained.
Front line's always the strongest, and then
Yeah.
after that is just what's whittled down. Maybe there's fucking a town that has garrison supplies, but everything else, the road to it, everything's fucking hanging on shingles, Like, that snowballing is real fucking devastating this game. Like, you break through, you just keep going and going and going until you get stopped for a little bit. But after that point where the warden side had almost they had almost everything they need to win. Only thing is just not the tech. Clones just sitting down in their little minds, cracking up all the intelligent people in the bunkers as they're getting shelled. They're like, so how are we gonna win this? By knowledge.
Yeah. I mean, think about it. What does a side have to do when they push back into their port bases, other than charge machine gun nests? There's absolutely nothing they can do apart from hit a bunch of scrap with a hammer. You know what I mean? So obviously they're going to farm more tech, because that's literally all they can do.
Yeah, and I think you made some pretty good points, Avitus. This is my point, and I know it's never gonna happen. I'm gonna start with exactly this. I know the developers are not gonna head into this way, but you said we should like share our personal opinion on it. This is my personal opinion. I think if you want a game like Foxhole to have mechanics like the rocket, right, where somebody needs to assume responsibility for such a tasking game, right? If you wanna have building, right, but building just player made and player maintained, so that there's no like scripting to it, there's no rules to it. I think like these elements kind of ask for a chain of command, a structure. I don't mean like a full fucking military chain of command. I mean more like heroes and generals, right? You have generals there. You understand what I'm saying? You have like I think Postscriptum, I think Squad, I think all of these games in general as the idea they do have a role of leadership into them, right?
Yep.
And it's like I feel like that is the problem right here. There is no way for anybody to like take the reins and say, okay, I'm taking over here. I'm gonna make some decisions, and you guys need to like back me up because like this is the role I'm playing in the game.
What I think would be an absolutely marvellous idea, and this is a bit out there, so bear with me. So what's the maximum rank in the...
I don't know, field marshal or something like that. Don't quote me on that.
So let's say, I don't know, everything from colonel and up can be voted to be Callahan or Theomaro for the war. So you have to be online at least once every 24 hours throughout the war, and you have to make decisions for your side. So what are you teching next? What are you firing at with the rockets? Who's going to be taking control of what rocket, blah, blah, blah. I mean, that is something that the community could do themselves, but I think if it was made official by the devs and we actually had someone that could not make decisions of our tactics overall, but important decisions like what towns and overall tactics on a large scale would go a long way, I think, to giving a lot of people direction and stuff like that.
And you could even split it up. It's like I like your idea, but I'm saying like you can make it like I'll just like let's go in this like parallel universe and just describe what we're like thinking of. I'm thinking of like each faction could have like I don't want to say sub-faction. I just like let's call them tribes is too primal. You know what I mean? Like groups of I don't know societies, something like that. Classes, worker classes. You know what I mean? You understand what I'm saying? Each faction could have some sub-factions, and then they each can appoint a leader, for example. I'm just like, so the leadership is spread between multiple people. There's not necessarily a need for one guy to control everything. You can have the research guild, and the leader of the research guild could control like what the tech tree, so to say, and the people that should be able to vote for that would be the logi players. It's just an example. I don't know if I explained it correctly.
No, that sounds like a good idea.
It's just like you don't like you could do it in so many ways, and I think there would be so little way you could fuck it up. It's just that I just feel like just a tiny bit more structure. I do respect their willingness to keep everybody equal in the game and like have no like inequality between a guy who just started the game and a guy who is playing it for forever. But I see other games doing it, and I don't see those problems arising. You know what I mean? I don't hear about people having a problem because somebody has to play general in other games. Sure, you'll have disagreements, but we have disagreements now without that system. Way bigger disagreements. Look at the entire Jade thing, and look at that how that split the community, and the entire drama about it. I personally think, with a system like this, you would never have a person like the leader of WNS ever taking decisions like that. So those issues will never happen. You understand what I'm saying? That's where I'm going with all of this.
No, I agree with you.
Because like the more you spread the power around, you could actually have I don't know, 5 people maybe in charge, each of their little bit, right? They don't need to like have arguments and get over each other. They could have the little bit, and they could have support from people. That's how
I
you
would
get
just
them
say,
there.
like, have an option where, let's say these 5 guys are in charge for a faction for the tech. Each of the 5 guys puts a vote on what they want to tech, and like there'll be 2 options. Like, let's say for early game, shotguns versus SMGs. 3 of them say shotguns, 3 of them and 2 of them say SMGs. Then the vote could go out to the public, and just, like, what do the people think? These are the ones that, the guys in charge, and then, like, later on in the game where we have like 5 options for tech, where, for example, I'm just gonna say some random shit like gun nests versus anti-tank turrets, and garrison houses and tank traps. Tank traps isn't even voted from the Council of 5. There's a priority on AT AT turrets and fucking gun nests. Those are the only 2 that the High Council voted on. Those are the only 2 options the people get to vote on.
Yeah, I mean the way to implement it is like almost non-important, if you know what I mean. Like there's so many ways you can do it. Even just starting with a simple vote instead of just allowing people to just spread the tech around. And I'm not talking about tech, I'm talking about facilities as well. Like the facility system is in shambles. When the war starts, everybody grabs as many upgrade parts they can, and they run with them like raccoons all over the map, trying to put them where they want them to. That's not like a system worthy of a game like this. If I'm permitted to say that.
'Cause
I f-
if you don't handle the tech yourselves, like, we're fortunate we have a big clan and we can always get a bunch of, like, when the war starts, usually, I know we didn't do it this war, but how it usually goes every start of the war is we have everyone get up into whatever our logi decides to be our headquarters at, get everyone at the base, tell everyone grab nothing but upgrade parts, fill the truck up, make sure your inventory's full up. We're gonna go. We have our spreadsheet. We go down the list and we repeat, repeat, repeat.
and
And
this is sort of just want to point it out. This is where I feel a tiny bit of hypocrisy is, right? Because like you want to keep this game as equal to everybody as you can. That's what I'm. That's what the vibe I'm getting. Yet doing stuff like you mentioned earlier is only accessible to a huge clan. You understand what I'm saying? So, the small guy is left with either cooperating or wasting, which is not really a system I think is fair for anybody really. A fair system would be, I don't know, maybe having like before the war starts, having like a ballot, and then you have, I don't know, maybe each city, and like you can like say uh or even better, you could submit logi plans, like as an individual you could submit a logi plan. um like I want BMATs there, I want to put shared facility production in that town, you know what I mean? And then you submit it, and the faction gets to vote on it, and you can have, I don't know, a voting out of 3 or 4 plans for a region, and whoever gets more votes, that's the plan we're going for. But the important thing is, once you get in game, you cannot put upgrade parts anywhere else. You should only be allowed to put them inside where the plan says you should be putting them. You understand what I'm saying?
I know where you're coming from with that. But I can tell you why it'll never be implemented. That will never ever be implemented in the game, because right, trying to think of a scenario. Okay, Wardens land at Jade Cove. The rest of the map is controlled by colonials. They're trying to be a thorn in the colonial side by taking Jade Cove, which has happened in the past multiple times. They arrive at Jade Cove. The facilities there, I don't know, they're not teched to make rifles, for instance. And because of the preset plan, they cannot build facilities there to make rifles. So they have to get have to get it shipped in by sea. Like, that is something that will cause that system to break down, because you got like, while you're getting people that want it to be more organized, like myself and yourself, you're obviously going to get a lot more people that are going to be wanting to tech into facilities for necessity, at the time, rather than
I understand. Yeah, I understand what you're
like
saying. Yeah.
what might work. What might work is plans for home regions.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah. I was,
yeah,
I
like
was when I was saying it, I was saying it more with home regions in mind. In the middle
yeah,
regions, I do agree that's not applicable.
yeah. Like home regions, I can see where you're going with it, and I agree with you. And it could work in the home regions wholeheartedly. It could work in the home regions, but as soon as you start going out of the home regions, then no.
Yeah, you need a lot more liberty, and it probably is why it kind of goes back to towards the need of leadership, really, because I think we're starting to make progress ourselves as communities, and discussing with each other and so on and so forth. But in the end, like you are limited to the number of people you can touch, even with these. Sure, us and a few other clans can organize and work together, but that's still not gonna be more than what, let's say optimistically, half of the faction. But with the numbers we have right now, that's not even half. That's probably 20%, something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. What I'd like to talk about briefly is rockets as well. Now, 82DK is a big clan. Some of the other clans are absolutely huge as well. However, I think it's a little bit much to ask people to literally garrison a rocket site for how long is it?
20,
48 hours?
no, 24 if you wanna
Well,
play. Yeah,
even 24 hours. Even
yeah.
24 hours is ridiculous. I mean, like, I think from building the rocket to launching the rocket, should obviously the fuel capacity should vary. So if you're crossing two maps to strike your target, then it should, from building the rocket to firing the rocket, should take about 12 to 14 hours, in my opinion. If you're firing it on the same map, 8 hours. If you're firing it on the next map over, 10 hours. You know what I mean? Or 12 hours or whatever. It's like, to ask a full day is like, it's not good enough, in my opinion, because it's like, it's going to sound really jank, me saying this, but it's putting people's health at risk. You know what I mean? Because people are really, really passionate about Foxhole. They love this game, absolutely love it, and they put, like, it's one of those games where you invest time into something, and if you invest enough time, then you literally can't walk away from it, because you know as soon as you walk away from it, it's vulnerable. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So we're literally, like, when we build a rocket, when we built our silo last time, we literally had shifts, people logging on in the middle of the night and shit like that to garrison this fucking site from mortars, from colonial Americans with mortars. You know what I mean? That are awake during our night and all that shit. So it's like, I don't know. I don't think it should be 24 hours. I think it should be a lot less than that.
I do understand your point, and I think a lot of the stuff is orientated towards waiting and stuff like that in the game. I know the devs said they are trying to limit this, but it sounds so counterintuitive, because like they said they want to remove most of the timers, and they added a huge one. You know what I mean? Because it's a timer in the end. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah. I
And
mean, you need, to a certain degree, you do need, you can't just build a rocket and fire it straight away.
absolutely,
That would be ridiculous. That would be absolutely ridiculous. You need time. And Foxhole's a game where it's not like any other game, in the respect of, right, a V2's launching from the B flag, you know what I mean? Go stop it, you know what I mean? You got I don't know, 2 minutes to go stop it or whatever. It's
yeah.
not a game where you can literally give, even 2 hours wouldn't be enough, really. I mean, if you get a rocket silo, especially one like ours, where it's defended by multiple layers of level 3 bunker walls, AT turrets, you know, for that type of thing, you need a full-scale invasion. and to put a full-scale invasion together, as we well know, is like ridiculous. You need like probably 6 hours, even more than that, to put a full-scale invasion together. Because I mean, even the blueprint for the cargo ship is about 12 hours. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
just the sheer number of shit that you need to accumulate, and then you need to account for instance, when the Colonial rocket was launching and we put together a full-scale invasion, like I said earlier in the video, we lost half of our shit in the border crossing. So how are you meant to stop a rocket in without a timer? You know what I mean? Well, or
Yeah.
with a very small timer, you know. Uh, you need a lot of time, and you need the border crossing fixing before. I mean, personally, they should have fixed the border crossing well before they released
All of this.
the rockets.
Yep.
Yeah, the rockets. I mean, well, yeah, it should have been fixed fucking patches ago. Like well into last year, it should have been fixed. You know what I mean? Because it's been a problem for a very, very long time. Since border crossing got brought out last year, it's been an issue since then. We've been losing tanks. I mean, the number of tanks that are lying at the bottom of the ocean now, it's got to be like making their own little island. You know what I mean?
Under the sea. Okay. Yes, I do get I do get what you're saying. It's very hard to balance it. I'll give that out because like you said, too little time and then there's no hope of taking it down. Too much time and you're basically like working people to death without even knowing it. Um, I don't know. I'll be honest with you. I think one thing that could have been done better, in my opinion, is the position of the silos. So many of them are so close to water, it's not even funny. You know what I mean? Because
I think that was by design.
I do
To tell you
understand
the truth.
that, but it's at the same time, it's I think it's bad from both angles because you need people online to keep an eye on that fucking water because otherwise somebody's gonna land and
Yep.
destroy a rocket. But on the other side of the coin, the invasion you need to fucking land on that island is so hard to put together that it works the other side to death. So you see, like, it's I don't know. I feel like more inland locations would have probably prompted less people to be as paranoid about defending it, and two, allowed people to push on ground more, and then because it's a land invasion, it's a bit easier to pull off. It just in my mind. I don't know how you see it. That's how I see it. You know, I think people would have been a bit more chill, but when you see that light side so close on that beach, it's like you can't fucking like stop thinking about it. It's like, what if they land an arty gun on that beach and like boom boom, and you know, rocket them? Well then, I fucking worked my ass off for it. I don't want to lose it to like 3 people with an arty gun, right?
Absolutely. That's what brings me on to my point. Where I don't think rockets should be destroyable by artillery, and it might be saying, whoa, you know, Avidus, you know, like, you know, like, what are they meant to destroy it with other than artillery? Like, there wouldn't be any need for huge, massive forts around rockets if they couldn't be artilleried. Do you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
there would be less need for these absolutely massive citadels to be built around rockets that are going to go unused for the rest of the war, pretty much. Because as soon as you launch the rocket, that defensive structure is made pretty much nil, because most of the rockets are near your port base. So if they're pushing you back to that structure, then the war's already lost, pretty much. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Anything to say about that, Dark?
Avidus, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, artillery? Not being able to...
I know it'd work. I know it'd work the other way around as well, but yeah, I think what might be a good idea is to make the rocket sites unkillable by artillery, but no, I'm not even going to say that because that's a stupid idea. Absolutely stupid idea. Like,
Exactly.
what I
It's
was
bad
going to
and you
say
should feel bad.
what I was going to say is you shouldn't be able to destroy them with artillery, and they should have more. What's the, like defenses that aren't built defenses. They're just part of the map, sort of thing. Like trench lines and all that type of stuff. Bunkers that you can actually walk inside of, and set a HMG up inside and fire out of, sort of thing. And have walls that can't be destroyed. Like the port-based walls around them and stuff like that. So they have a set entrance that they need to go through and all that type of shit. But like I said, it's a stupid idea. So
It's all good. As far as
We need Patriot systems. That's the
long
thing.
enough,
indeed.
I think it's time to call
Yeah.
it an end. I know I've been sleeping a good chunk of this podcast.
Yeah, we can tell.
I mean,
Good listener.
the guy works his ass off, so
Well,
it's his time.
we will. Dark's been in the kitchen, hasn't he? So
Yeah.
been slaving over a hot frag grenade all pod.
Nice.
Celebratory. Does it have confetti and everything? Because it was the new year.
Good. Special ingredient this week is rocket fuel. It's from the waste that is left over from was it World Conquest 19? Scooped freshly
It was,
from Jade
yes.
Cove?
And and just a thing at the end here as well. There's going to be a video coming out soon with a sort of like a news broadcast thing that this guy's bringing out. That should be a good video. So give that.
Give it a gander. It's I think it was Press Core Potato. That's the shout out.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. Shout it out. Maybe Razor will throw a link to whatever in the description.
Yeah, when it comes out, we'll throw that link in there. Anyway,
Yeah,
guys,
sure.
thank you. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next.
See you guys.
Have a good one, boys and girls. But let's be honest, mostly good boys.
Yeah.